Hey, 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 what's up, people? Hey, party time. It's Phil and Larry, or Larry and Phil. You get to guess which one's which. We'll make it a game. Yeah, until we're famous, I guess we won't be able to play that game anymore. So, regular day out there in the real world. Yeah,
Yeah, not
yeah,
a
not,
huge Tuesday. Not a whole lot going on, right?
yeah. I figure I'd hit the news. I was busy most of the day, so I wasn't able to hawk on anything. I thought I'd throw up some of the goings ons. Let's go ahead and start with the war since that seems to be the preoccupation in the big world. I'm going to
Sounds
throw a link. Yeah, I'm going to throw a link over the very latest in that situation. So let me pop over here. And I need to get a little smoother at bringing this stuff up. But I shared a screen there.
yeah, I'll pop it on up.
And just here is the Trump on the latest of what's going on based on the request of Pakistan and other countries. The tremendous military success we've had during the campaign against the country of Iran. Additionally, the great progress made toward a complete and final agreement with the representatives of Iran. We have mutually agreed while the blockade will remain in full force and effect, Project Freedom, that was the movement of the ships of the through the Strait. Remember, they were going to Congo line them through with protection. That's going to be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalized and signed. President Donald J. Trump. So I need to do the thank you for your attention on
Yeah,
this
for your
matter or
attention on
whatever.
this matter. Yeah.
What this signals to me is one of two options. We're on the verge because this is the most optimistic he's been. You know, he's done this a couple of times where hey, we got a deal, or looks very good for a deal, blah blah blah. This has been the most positive of the last two or three times.
Mm.
Or this really has a vibe of right before Venezuela when him and Maduro were talking and everything was nice and hunky dory, and then he slammed the hammer. So
Said,
it could go either way at this point. But I just thought that was interesting because the Iran war being kinetic is the big thing right now. What else is going on?
yeah,
Oh,
I
let me.
just to give you a little bit from my point of view, because I usually try to watch Breaking Points is a good. They always have a war segment every day, so that's a good way to get at least a little bit of some sort of update. From their kind of perspective, it's we've reached a point where it's apparent if the plan was like make them use up all the or put everything in reserves until the point where it's like they don't have places to put oil, so they're gonna have to shut down, blah blah blah. That Iran possibly at this point, or apparently at this point, because it's again, these people speak with certainty when they might not actually have the sourcing to do so. But it's a good indication that Iran might have ways, like through just like road travel to get oil out essentially or some shit. So it's a matter of like how much of that leverage still remains kind of a thing. Is what like I guess the populist left is saying about it.
Yeah, there's no way they can move millions of gallons of oil through overland, or
Yeah,
else
not
that's what Saudi Arabia would be doing right now. With the
yeah, if it were
blockage
just
of
that
yeah,
easy, you would
it's
think,
in
yeah,
yeah.
that there would be a reason why. I don't
And
know.
another reason they might be willing to squish is they sent a guy to they sent a foreign what they call him their foreign minister to Iran, or I'm sorry, to China. So China is starving for oil right now. You think you're the $3 to $4 gas, 350 gas, is bad here in America. They're getting killed in Asia.
Right, because they get much more of theirs too.
So China might be saying, "All right, we're done. We're done." Even Germany came out and said, "Okay, it's time for them to come and get this over because Europe is starting to is getting choked off too." Remember, we don't get our oil, so we're feeling the pinch because they're global markets, but not like the rest of the world is. They're like going to have to stop flying airplanes, and they're like what we happened to us in the '70s, late '70s.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like it's weird that we try to cover like news in a way and we don't necessarily always have an Iran update, but I think that's kind of smart. Like we're not expecting the whole world to
Hmm. And I'm not
keep
even
in
gonna
it.
give my opinion too much into because you can go elsewhere for that, or we'll eventually
But I
watch their
think that's
take on
smart.
that.
We're, we're both, I think, for what it's worth, just kind of throwing out our best kind of takes on that kind of shit.
Yeah,
We both
yeah.
make it pretty abundantly clear that we, are
But
kind of
I do
talking.
like talking about, this is what the conversation was.
This
And
is
from what I
where
was
everyone
able,
else.
yeah, this is what I saw people talking about. Now, the other thing for in our world, again, I can't reach into Democrat world, so I'm not sure what Democrats are talking about because I am not one. So I'll leave that up to you, whether it be Reddit or whatever have form. But if there's anything really big on your side, I'm sure you can bring it to our attention. But the other thing that was going on was Indy. Does Trump still have the juice? Go ahead and pull up the screen I put out there.
Yeah, let's
Indiana
talk.
had these were the I don't know where I can blow it up. There we go.
Yeah, this is tonight then, right?
Yep, this is tonight. Just went down, and the and all of them. I think all of them, but one. There were eight. He had eight of them out. This is Indiana. Remember, Indiana said, "No, we're not redistricting." The
Mhm.
Republicans, because they're all owned by Mike Pence, and Pence said, "You do not give Trump what he wants." Well, so Trump
Gotcha.
went after him, and Trump
Mhm.
dropped them all tonight. And the one guy that lived, this D38, his name is Good. He kind of cheated. He went and got a third party candidate with the same name as the MAGA candidate,
With the same name even?
same last name. So Trump endorsed Wilson, and then the other Wilson was in there too. So that vote split. And also they dropped the most money in him because he was the loudest voice against redistricting. So he was like the only
Mhm.
way they could save face. So there was a little bit, even there was a little bit of, there was a lot of MAGA juice going on. So anyway, the fact that MAGA is dead or any of those, and in Ohio we did the same thing. Vivac had just, and I'm telling you, my MAGA hates him. You remember the whole what is Saved by the Bell controversy with the H-1B visas, where he
Oh,
criticized
yes.
American culture. MAGA
Yep,
hates his fucking
exactly. We
guts.
glorify the jock over the geek or whatever.
Yeah, back in that was like right after that was even before he was inaugurated, I believe.
Do remember that. Yep. Yeah, exactly. That was before even inauguration. That was in between
The
when he
Trump
won.
endorsement was enough for him to just smoke any competition. So I just wanted to bring that up. That was, Trump still got the juice. It's
Worthy of, yeah,
and
right.
and this is the warning shot to all the other states that are considering being squishy about
Mhm.
redistricting. Don't do it.
Of,
Or you'll lose your job. And also, this is a shot to John Thune. I want the SAVE Act.
right, which I still see he shows Scott Pressler, is it? That
Hmm.
still pops up in my timeline talking about. Okay, no, it's I'm going down to Texas or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, he's going after Cornyn right now. Although I think the MAGA candidate down there is going to win pretty easily.
I'll
So
follow it closely. Right.
yeah.
But I can tell you a bit what the left is talking about, really. It's still
Hmm.
the Ken Martin fallout with that interview with the Pod
Perfect.
Save Bros.
Perfect. That's what we're
And
about to go into.
right. Still a good amount of conversation around the same thing with, redistricting and how it is we're going to really fuck over everyone who isn't a part of the established parties, either one of the parties. Which I we are going to talk about something other than that on this pod save clip, but I will give them a little bit of credit. They at least recognize and put that as part of the conversation when they talked redistricting is like no one really benefits from this. This is a political war that it's
Um,
like, well, regular everyday voters get fucked and get pulled to these extremes then.
no, the uh,
Um,
the the old rules are done. It is now sheer political power play.
it's right,
That's
it's
all that
pure.
matters now.
Yeah.
That is the way it is. You can cry and bemoan about it, or you live in the world and you play by you adjust and play by the new rules.
Or even if you want the rules to have some of them be applied again, you need to work within the bounds that are currently acceptable to move them. You can't change shit without going to where shit is at. You know what I mean?
Un-
Um,
Unfortunately, I
yeah,
believe
but
we're in an existential war now. It's a political war, but it's existential, and one
right,
side has to demolish the other side. Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Oh yeah, no,
So
you're good.
anyway,
I'm talking over, so I
no,
can yeah.
I was gonna go ahead and delete that out or take that out. But yeah,
I've
yeah, there you go.
replaced it already. You're good. But yeah, no,
So
here's Pod Save Bros. We're going to pick up where they're talking more about like the Ken Martin interview. So this will be our first segment.
Others around the DNC who have said that there's real conversations. There's been real conversations about trying to potentially oust Martin. What do you guys make of how big of a problem this is?
Here's what I don't understand. What do we want the DNC to do between now and November, right? And it seems to me like at this point,
This November.
we
Hold
want to
on, I
raise a
think
ton of
actually
money.
there's a little bit.
So, in the category of Democrats being Democrats, there's also some new concerns swirling about the DNC after Ken Martin's stellar performance on this very show last week, where
After you threw him off that ship in the harbor like Osama bin Laden's corpse. Is that okay to say?
Look, he was a bit testy, I think, about his decision to not release the 2024 autopsy, despite promising to do so, as well as the state of the DNC's finances, which are not great. Over the weekend, Lauren Egan at The Bulwark reported that some DNC members have recently considered trying to force Martin out, but that effort was, quote, put on hold after members failed to identify an alternative candidate willing to step into the role. Sort of like trying to be the new Ayatollah, I guess. Party members are also trying to force a resolution that would put constraints on Martin's spending and how he handles the budget. I can confirm the Bulwark reporting. I've also talked to DNC members and others around the DNC who have said that there's real conversations. There's been real conversations about trying to potentially oust.
I think this kind of speaks to the Pod Say Bros and the Bulwark crew are like this. They're fucking thick as thieves. And also that it's again the Pod Say Bros are trying to both tell the establishment how the base is feeling while engaging the base and how the establishment runs into the realities of politically getting something done. You got anything on this so far?
Yeah. Well, just that it's interesting. No one wanted the part that caught my attention was where no one wanted to take over. They couldn't find anyone who would want to stand in. That was like the thing that was stopping this, I don't know, mutiny. Is that what you want to call it? That was going to stop this mutiny. It was that no one wanted to get in and take over. Well, midterms are looking pretty good. And, because I listened to the segment prior to this one was how rosy the midterms were. And he does mention that the DNC doesn't have very much. He downplays, because the DNC does play a role. You still do the get out the vote and all that stuff. They play a role in the midterms, but he kind of downplays that role, saying that the DNC head doesn't matter. It only matters for 2028. And but that's we'll go ahead and go on. But I just thought that was interesting that no one else wanted to take over. I just
no one else wanted exactly, and I don't think it would be for any lack of ambition in the DNC. You know what I mean? It's just probably fear of the fallout or how it is you would actually navigate going through.
Why would the position of chair be toxic?
Well, it's I think the moment that might be toxic and trying to own whatever fallout might come. It's that Streisand effect thing with this report. It's like, well, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, why wouldn't people want to be, I don't know, willing to step in there?
Yep.
I don't know. But yeah, we'll let them hit on that too.
Martin, what do you guys make of how big of a problem this is?
Here's what I don't understand. What do we want the DNC to do between now and November, right? And it seems to me like at this point,
this November,
we want to raise a ton of money, right?
But even then, the DNC has very little to do with the midterms. So if we succeed in the midterms, Ken Martin's going to say, see, you're all a bunch of bedwetters and I'm amazing and look at what the DNC did. That's going to be wrong because the DNC doesn't really have a lot to do with the midterms. If we fail at the midterms and people say, oh, this is why Ken Martin's off, that's also doesn't really hold water because it's just the DNC plays the biggest role in presidential elections. So this is a 2028 issue, not a 2026 issue.
Look, his performance in that interview was shockingly bad.
Pause.
And obviously, I'm biased here. I'm a host of.
I just want to state this goes back. Well, then, in order to stop that from happening, where he either takes credit or takes blame, someone else could stand in. If you're going to have a great midterm, I can't see why there wouldn't be eagerness to go for the chair if you can replace him. Right. So you could be sitting in the chair while you're on all the TV channels crowing about a great midterm.
Here's one angle of it that I think could be playing a factor of like it's not necessarily toxic but challenging of again because it plays such a much of its role plays in growing not just the overall party apparatus, but in presidential elections, how do you do anything that isn't just giving Kamala the nominee? Like you've been pointing out, like it's going to be really difficult for her to not win the nomination. I think I would put her chances above Gavin Newsom right now, this far back. But where
Oh
was
yeah.
I go with
If I was a
this?
betting man, I would drop so much money on her on Kalshi right now. I don't know what she's paying, but
I what were you just making? Fuck.
oh,
I
the
just
point
lost.
about why the chair wouldn't be if the
Yes.
midterms are going to be glowing, because he mentioned that as one of the midterms aren't important, but he's going to be using them either to strengthen his position or his
If
position will
one
be
of
weakened
those
because of it.
lessons, yeah, if one of them that they're not necessarily addressing though does have to do with weakness of Kamala as a candidate potentially, that might be something that's really difficult to navigate. That's still coming up the pike. It's still a shoot a drop if that is a big reason why they're not necessarily
It could be.
releasing.
That's a
Hard
good.
to say.
Again, we're speculating because we can't get in
Exactly.
anybody's
We don't.
minds. And I'm not going to be one of those bullshit people that get to have a mic and then say this is what's going to happen,
No, I
because
know
we're in the
exactly
middle of it.
what happened. It's just I'm not going to tell you until the
Yeah.
end of this
Yeah.
episode, so stick around. All right.
For the show, I'm your friend. I'm friends with Ben Wickler, but like I didn't go into the interview feeling like, oh, I have beef with Ken Martin. I was just kind of like, what does this guy have to say? And I came away feeling like he was insulting my intelligence because like on the autopsy debate, specifically the 2024 DNC autopsy and why they haven't released it, nothing in that report could be as bad as the series of news cycles about spiking the report or going back on your promise to release it. Nothing. And despite what he said, like no one expected there to be a silver bullet in there. I did hope there would be a granular look at the efficacy of like voter contact, door knocking, phone calls, ad spending, like issues that in hindsight move voters. If vendors or like, various individuals spent money poorly, we should name and shame them. But now we don't have any of that. And everyone is filling the void left by the lack of information with their priors, right? So the DNC defenders say, oh, it was all just inflation or Biden was too old. And the left says it was all Gaza. And we just argue in circles ad infinitum. And it sucks. It's a terrible setup. And there was a DNC member saying on Twitter that the truth is the autopsy report just never really got done or never got completed and never will be. And that's why it wasn't released. And if that's true, that shows a lack of candor in previous statements and the interview with you that is really bad and a problem. And so then the fundraising, like
And that was something I know it's in my liked tweets. I'll bring it when we're maybe doing the ranking and we're talking Pod Save Bros, because it was in a reply to Favreau that this person who was a member of the DNC replied that was his understanding, is that it was never necessarily finalized in a form that would have some sort of executive summary or a complete 200-page report or whatever the hell.
So
Which
it sounds like it
again,
was I was
good.
so it sounds like it was a kickback. He just kind of gave his friend some money to do something. His
Would
money
you
brought
pay?
back a bullshit product.
And even if I'm giving you the biggest benefits of the doubt, the fact that there's no way to characterize it other than like completely misleading the way that you've described the fact finding mission or the endeavor. I'm trying to remember the verbiage that he used, but it's everything about this rings. Oh, I don't trust anything that's going on.
Well, and
Crazy.
especially since one of the claims of that the reason the report was buried originally was that it hid all the bad spending by the campaign in
The
24.
spending in 24. Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah, the DNC spending.
fundraising is not good. There's a bunch of big donors on the sideline who will not give to the DNC. I know that from personal conversations with them, and we can't pretend otherwise. So like this process about pushing him out or selecting someone new, like I don't know how that would work. I don't think you can constrain, like you pick someone to lead the DNC, you pick them to lead the DNC. You can't constrain how they spend money. If you're at that point, you should get a new person in there. This person needs to be able to spend money. So I came away shocked that like a political professional struggled that badly in just answering questions that I feel like were asked in good faith and could have been answered better, but just it was a mess.
it is now like accepted as a fact that the DNC covered up the autopsy because it showed that Kamala Harris lost because of Gaza. That is like on the whole parts of the internet. That is just a known thing that we all know about the fact of this report. Now, there has been reporting that played a role, and I would like to know what that information is, but it just speaks to the damage done by either not finishing the report or not. And like the way in which saying you're not going to release the report and not finish the report go hand in hand is this thing kind of just sort of slowly like kind of ends with a whimper. We're probably not going to put it out. Like the work, everyone kind of slows down, the meetings get canceled, and all of a sudden there's no report and nothing to release. And so like part of the problem is there's no way to answer for that in an interview now, because what should happen is go back in time, aggressively finish the thing and get it out the door.
Yeah. What I have heard, and like Tommy said, there was a DNC member on Twitter who said some of this, but then I've heard it from other people.
Yeah, I've heard it from others too.
Lots of other people
citing just the tweet
that Ken Martin had his friend Paul Rivera, who was unpaid, which is why Ken was telling me. Then he was like, "Oh, we didn't spend hundreds of $1,000s on it," and I was like, "Oh, it's a free report." And he was like, "Well, so he got this guy to do it. The guy went around and talked to people. Didn't even talk to all the right people. A lot of people weren't interviewed at all. Did a shitty job, and Ken the whole time was like just letting him do his thing. And then when he came back and didn't have any of the good information, then they just wrote up the report what they had. It was a garbage report, and then Ken realized they couldn't release it. And so instead of either saying like this was a bad thing, we're going to try another autopsy, we're going to hire someone else, we're going to do it right, has apparently just decided to not be honest about it.
Yeah, I've heard that from a bunch of people too. I can't confirm that it's true or not. It would certainly.
We've heard from a lot of people who are like in the know.
Yes, but it certainly does a better job explaining why you would endure this torturous series of news cycles about a thing rather than just dump it out over Christmas or something and just like move on.
I've also talked to people who have raised money at the highest level.
Okay, I have to correct myself. He didn't get paid for it, according to this story, this leak. Again, I have a problem with anonymous source stories. I really like someone putting their name behind a statement, just because it lets me know the validity of the information. But assuming the anonymous story is correct, then I have to correct myself because I said it was a kickback, and it just looks like it looks like, if anything, it looks like they just weren't interested in finding out. They didn't want the autopsy.
And that's the thing, is less specifically, hey, this is a kickback, but it's like there's no good explanation. It's either it's either unethical or it's incompetent. And either one of these answers, I'd like to know which one it is. You know what I mean? Because
Gotcha.
It's not the way forward is whatever answer they're giving me here. And I think actually that was about when I wanted to skip forward to just a couple minutes more into the conversation. I think it's about
absolutely not.
Whenever sorry,
but he's doing this like Bill Belichick. We're on the Seattle thing. And it's like,
I'm at the end of the clip instead of the beginning. We're professionals
all over the world, combined with the either the inability or refusal to release the autopsy, have together created this storm. And the question is, what are those are very specific problems, right? That like they may carry knock-on effects into the next year, but they don't actually speak to whether or not he would be able to do those jobs, right? Like what he would do to run the party in the next year. But like what I took away from this is like when we saw him at that party, I had always seen Ken Martin in these kind of like talking point mode interviews, which I found generally frustrating, but not more or less than a traditional politician. But at that meeting, he was so intense and direct, like in a way that I'd never seen in a kind of a public facing way. It was like, oh, like there's the real guy. He's like an operator, like an actual kind of like hard-nosed guy who's like pretty upset about bad coverage, pissed about it, thinks it's unfair, wants to argue about it, wants to make his case. And I thought like, oh, that's like an interesting kind of version of this person that I hadn't seen, because publicly he does a kind of more traditional Democratic politician thing. And I think what I took away from the interview overall is like the era of that kind of talking point is over. Like, don't talk down to people like this. It doesn't fucking work. It's certainly not solving your problem.
It was direct, but he's also very defensive. And what you've heard from DNC people and people in the Democratic Party is that the relationship building element of the job, which is also important for the Democratic National Committee chair, is lacking in a bit. And so it's very insular, and he's not reached out to people, or especially people who like supported any of his opponents in that race, you know, which is It's tough.
But also, like, his whole point was like, we're looking forward, not backwards. And it's like, well, none of us want to wallow in the past, but it's about learning from and correcting mistakes. And like, look at the Democratic Party right now. We have not learned from and corrected a lot of mistakes. Like, remember when voters were like, hey, you have a gerontocracy problem? Have we solved that beyond removing Joe Biden from the ticket? Absolutely not.
Whenever sorry.
But he's doing this like Bill Belichick. We're on the Seattle thing. And it's like, we want to figure out what we screwed up last time and fix it. And like, it was very,
And
it was very frustrating.
And his repeated point about lessons, we're releasing the lessons. I encourage everyone to go onto the DNC website and sign up for the 200-page lessons report and see what it is, because it's not really a lot of lessons. It's a lot of it is lessons from success in 2025, and then like various case studies from different groups that are just sort of pasted into the document, like our friends at Swing Left, who did a lot of that research door to door when they were, which is great. We love it, but like that's not an autopsy of 2024.
No, it's not. Whenever someone says like we got to look forward, we can't look towards the past. And it's like, okay, where do you learn from? Because I face the past. The future is, but actually, in a lot of ways, behind me. I only find out what's going to happen there when it becomes the past. The present is infinitely small, so I tend to live in this present that I can't really quantify. And everything I know, 100% of it actually comes from the past, which is interesting. So I don't know how you're supposed to learn from the future as before you've gotten there. So I think
the Marty McFly thing.
Yeah, past is a good place to look to find answers.
Pretty fair point, right? Like I do
Nick, we
hate
said-
that line a lot from Ken Martin of like I'm not trying to start a whole bunch of finger pointing at 2024. Bitch, that's kind of what an autopsy is. We kind of point fingers at what went wrong, right? Like shit.
Yeah, I think we
Really?
said about the same thing when we watched when we did our review of the original interview. I think we said just about the same thing, different words.
Right, because it's so clearly on its face, just like this way to try to slither out of actually addressing head on what the question and the criticism is. It's so fucking frustrating. And then I think there's one little like a minute maybe later on where they kind of touch on this subject again that I thought was worth
The thing that I
mentioning.
keep hearing is, you know who I want to support this time around because of the state of the politics of the party? First-time candidates, new candidates. And there is something, and like this is where like the Joe Biden issue and the Ken Martin issue are somewhat connected, because there is a like, don't piss on our leg and tell us it's raining kind of thing, where you look at Democrats and it was very obvious that Joe Biden was too old, and then a bunch of people in the party were like, no, he's fine, everything's great, the debate performance was fine, no big deal. And then Ken Martin's like, well, we told us you would release the autopsy, and you're not releasing the autopsy. And he's like, we are releasing it, we have been releasing it, just like, it's like when someone tells you something that is obviously seems dishonest, because we all have eyes and ears, like you lose a level of trust in that person and that institution that it's hard to get back, and I think that's part of the issue as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. The age thing is a stand-in though because like if you look at who were the people that were the most behind Joe Biden even towards the end, it wasn't ideological. Even like Bernie and AOC were the ones that like were behind
A lot
him.
of progressives, actually.
But people really know what Bernie stands for.
The end of the bit that was pertinent to the discussion. But yeah, no, I just thought it was really interesting. There's seems to be some sort of motion on actually getting some sort of at least accountability for the report. I think it's a bit too much to hope for like Ken Martin actually being ousted at this point, but hopefully some sort of accountability of what the fuck happened with this
No,
report.
he's kind of like the American version of Starmer. They're going to wait till the elections and then make a decision on what they're going to do. And by the way, those British elections are tomorrow, so I might be bringing some news on those. Yeah, remember I was telling you that government was in trouble, but they wanted to see how the elections went, so those are tomorrow. I've been watching a lot of British content because for some reason I'm just fascinated with their politics right now. I have no idea why. It's just one of those things. But I just thought it was funny because I can't listen to them at 1.5. I like to listen. You send so much stuff to me. Some of it I'll pop up to 1.5 so I can move to it a little quicker. Can't do that with the British because I have trouble understanding them at 1.0. So, or God forbid, I would have pumped
0.075 on them motherfuckers. Does that figure out what's going on?
I just thought that was a funny little sidebar. Oh
It is
boy, I did not watch any of this. You sent it to me, and I didn't get to it. I had a few other things pop
I'm
up
going
on me.
to skip the other bit because I know we want to wrap up by 10 Central, by the way.
Well,
So I want to
10:15 will work too. Yeah,
yeah, 10,
don't worry
so
about rushing. Yeah, we're good.
I want to speed it up just a tiny bit so we can shave off a little bit on this because I know I'm going to go ham. Like I want to rant and rave on some of these
Yeah, you
bits.
want more time. Yeah, you're looking for your time.
Exactly right. We can bump live and learn shit libs and Taylor the Wrens for some other day maybe, but
That's
I do
fine.
think. How much of this have you seen in clips? Like any
Um,
particular moments that you remember? Because this
let's
is a
see.
couple weeks old at this point.
It's okay. Social murder.
Social murder. Okay, that's a big one. It comes up. Yeah.
All right, and the is it okay to shoplift? And he wouldn't shoplift from. You can shoplift from corporations. I think that's it. There may have been another one or two, so we'll see. I'll let you know as we cross them. But
So
yeah, I
kind
do
of
think it's
I mean, there's a reason why those are the ones floating around because they're the most like on their face, like fuck
well.
this
And
guy's gonna fuck them.
yeah, she talks about stealing from Whole Foods. This bitch lives with like a $2 million brownstone or something. I mean, she's not hurting for money. I mean, the Robin Hood
Oh,
thing doesn't work when you're living in a castle. I'm just
shit.
saying.
The number of people who are using stealing from Whole Foods as their example of like, well, you gotta steal to survive. That's gonna be a good amount of this opening here. Let's soak this bit in.
Occasions I was like, I'm just gonna go back, grab those 4 lemons, and get the hell out.
You should go to
And
prison.
I know. You think they're gonna ban me?
They
Are they gonna ban
should
me?
throw you in jail.
But I didn't feel bad about it at all.
I'm proposing a new term, micro-looting.
I started going into the grocery store. I would pick up the thing that I wanted, and then I would go.
It's a survival technique. Gotta eat to live, gotta steal to eat.
You're paying for that, right?
No, babe, food is a human right.
People are taking small things from big corporations, and they're feeling
Quite literally singing like they're Aladdin, by the way. That'll come up again.
justified.
Well,
Like,
pause.
look, everyone's shoplifting for
Yeah.
This creates a society where you have deodorant behind glass.
It sure enough is. Yeah, it's almost
Okay.
like they talk about like companies factoring in the loss that comes from like shoplifting. Yeah, and as it increases, they have to take measures such as increasing costs, putting shit behind glass, increasing like security. All that shit makes your shit more expensive, you fucking idiot. But once we get to the future, dear comrade, where we value all of our labor properly, we'll be past all that. So buckle up, Larry, because there's going to be a lot of that kind of talk coming up here.
Yeah, because there's never been a case where criminals gateway from small crimes to larger crimes. They usually just stop after the small crime.
What good is trust in a society? Like,
Yeah.
what do you build on trust? Anything? Anything good? Anything worthwhile? Oh, everything. Everything worthwhile is built on trust. Jesus Christ.
from Whole Foods when you're shopping there.
You're not gonna steal from a deli like that. But Whole Foods, fuck Whole Foods. Fuck Bezos, fuck Amazon, all that. We should be right.
I gotta stop right there for just a little bit of like of course it's the Whole Foods because it's Bezos. And that clicked for me when I hit that TikTok. I was like, oh yeah, they all California doesn't let you have any grocery store near you except for a Whole Foods, and Bezos owns it. So of course they're all fucking stealing from Whole Foods and bullshit.
But they'll buy shit off Amazon and get their free shipping or whatever because they have the Amazon Prime membership. I'm just
They gotta
saying.
get it in a day, bro. They're not gonna wait.
It's like all the libs on Elon Musk's fascist site. They don't leave.
Yeah, right. They don't want to do anything. But then this next guy is a real treat too. I really like this.
that. But Whole Foods, fuck Whole Foods. Fuck Bezos, fuck Amazon, all that.
We should be rioting, but we're tired, so I'm gonna take these bagels.
But is it a slippery
We should be rioting, but I'm tired, so I'm gonna take these bagels.
And there's people on the
keyboard warrior bullshit. Like I can't.
and you got people on the left hoping for a civil war. Just saying, our side, like the Second Amendment is like one of the 10 commandments, and then that guy's too lazy to riot. He's just going to just micro loot or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna get these bagels. Yeah, fuck off. Like I can't imagine thinking that like this is worth posting to the this I guess
It's
forum
virtue signaling.
protest.
So much of it though is virtue signaling, looking for applause from other people. I don't know. You're with, as long as you parrot the message.
See, and I do know because we're about to hit like a virtue signal lightning round. Strap it.
What's going on
Oh.
with our moral code? To find out, I'm talking to political commentator Hasan Piker and New Yorker writer Gia Tolentino. Thank you both so much for being here with me today to talk about this. Hi, Gia.
Hi.
Hi, Hasan.
Hi.
I want to start with a little exercise just about our own morals. Would you share your Netflix password?
I do.
I also do. Well, I
With anyone.
For the longest time, I actually had someone else's Netflix password. That was my primary access to Netflix.
And now you
But-
share your own?
Yeah.
Would you get around a paywall on an article you're trying to read?
Do it every day on my stream.
Yes,
Every
and I
day.
support it when people do it for my own work. I say, go off. Use the Wayback Machine.
Would you pirate music from an indie band?
Is it 2005 and I'm using LimeWire? Because yes.
I feel like every millennial has at some point done this.
I feel like fundamentally Spotify is kind of like deleterious to the musician livelihood, and I use that. But then I go to the shows.
Yeah, no, I'm pro piracy all the way, like across the board. Would you pirate a car? Yes. You know, if you could, if
What would
if
it
one
mean to
could
pirate a car?
it was just a classic thing back in the day. Where they'd be like, the government funded anti-piracy initiatives would be like, dude, would you steal a car? I'm like, yeah, sure. If I could get away with it, if it was as easy as pirating IP, I would do it.
This is just like a fucking long circle at UC Berkeley at this point. This is the New York Times opinion podcast. It's just like, if I could download it, sure, I would.
Let's work through the three examples again. What was the first example? Would you?
I hit the first one.
Just the question. I'm just curious. What,
Also, do well.
Share your Netflix
would you?
pass.
Okay, first of all, now with the blocker thing, because I used to leech off of. You can't even do that now anyway, unless they're at home. So
Yeah, exactly.
would you?
Unless they're in the
That's
same
kind of a.
computer.
Now, as far as before, sure, people did that, but they shared, but they knew that too. Remember, that was Netflix's kind of thing. They didn't care. I think they even had a tweet out there where it was, share the Netflix, before they started to get locked down and get money hungry. So that was just kind of a thing. So that's the first example. All right, move on.
End
to
up
the next
hitting a
one.
ceiling, right? That's you're cool with people sharing up to a certain point where it's like, okay, well, now I need to get some revenue out of someone. I'm going to make some people start.
And now that violation wasn't really breaking the trust society. Do you see what I'm saying?
Not in a huge way. You know what it is, though, is a matter of convenience. I want a couple more things that I can stream. So, man, again, what a weird thing to kind of virtue signal on. But also, you notice that Hasan went from pirating Netflix to paying the corporate overlords himself. And
And the dude's a motherfucking billionaire. Why wouldn't he pay it for it before? That dude should be able to give him out and donate him to homeless people with tablets. I'm just saying. Not a billionaire, he's a millionaire.
To run red with capitalist blood. Why does he pay for it now, motherfucker? Why is he a fucking multi-millionaire or whatever the fuck? But anyway. Yeah, Netflix password. What's the next one?
Had someone.
Would you get around a paywall on an article you're trying to read?
Pause.
Yep.
Again, that's very similar to the Netflix thing. To get around a paywall, I mean, this is such a small infraction. Because what is a New York Times subscription for a month? $8.95 or something. Again, this isn't okay. If this is micro looting, then I might even say I support it in that. You know what I'm saying? This isn't something that's going to break down the larger society.
Right. No, exactly. I think there's a development for sure to the conversation. What I think is so funny about these examples is how bougie this shit is. Your streaming service, when you want an article that you really, really want to read and you don't want to pay for it, and then what's the other one?
I feel like every
Yeah, I'm not gonna give Rolling Stone money because I want to read one article.
I'm gonna read
So
one
yeah,
article. I'm not gonna
yeah,
buy an album because I'm gonna download one song illegally from, back when LimeWire was a thing or whatever. These are all matters of convenience, not like
yeah.
revolutionary or like. And
But
I
even before the pre-digital age, you would do, with tapes, you would tape the song off the radio. So I mean, you had a bootleg
past
copy
that
anyway,
digital.
or bootleg. Someone had the vinyl, and you would just record the cassette or cassette to cassette, whatever. I mean, people have been doing this all the time, or not buy the paper. You steal it from the library, or lift it from the library, or the McDonald's, whoever had it out in the morning. There were non-digital versions of this same kind of thing. But it wasn't high enough to break the trust of the society because the infractions were so micro.
Right. And right, this is still in that weird like virtue signaling thing. I think the one thing I will give, I'm trying to remember this woman's name, Gia something. Hasan Piker, yeah, and Gia Tolentino or whatever. She does at least mention at different points in this interview that these aren't like any kind of effective ways, or you couldn't qualify them really as protests because they're not in any way something that you publicly announce, right? Like by their nature in a lot of these examples. So at least she's aware of that. Where the conversation devolves and why it's mostly about Hassan is the bits where he gets to like extraction of labor value when you're stealing from a grocery store that's in a
Yeah,
capitalist system as opposed to
as I
it's
said,
gonna
look
get
before, because the next example is where they take a leap.
yes,
The
right,
next,
exactly. It's when they follow
yeah,
something to an illogical conclusion instead of
yeah.
some sort of logical one.
So you get to the point,
Deleterious to the music.
and well, I was gonna say you get to the point because the next one I believe is where he jumps to, where you're pirating an indie band's music, and he goes, "Yeah," and then you go pirate a car.
And then you
Well,
fire
now we've left to something I wouldn't even, you know what I'm saying? That's on a whole different magnitude than grabbing an indie band's song.
no idea. The difference between intellectual property and property, I think, is regarded, highly regarded, is how you would have to say it on Reddit. Yeah, it's really fucking dumb.
Which I
Musician
never
livelihood, and I
understood
use
that.
that.
Hold on again. I'm
But
gonna
then I go
pause
to
for a second because this always bothered me. If you're saying a word that's referring to a word, why not just say the word to begin with? I'm
Because
just saying
YouTube's gonna hit us in the fucking. This is why
it.
we gotta get on Kit.
Yeah, and we are. If anyone follows us, this is our practice ground, and we're getting better with it. But I'm telling you, we're going to go to a more free speech platform because it's rather regarded that you have a term that means, for all intents, the same meaning as the original word. Do you see what I'm saying? It hasn't changed. The only thing you've done is change the letter, but everything, it's
Well,
literally the same word.
you've made that part of or that word in the culture so distant from like you've used so many euphemisms separated from retarded that it's like moron and idiot used to literally mean people at certain IQ levels or whatever the fuck it is. That's how language evolves, is eventually you're like
Versus how it's used, yeah, versus how it's used in
we don't
clips.
mean
I
retarded,
wish
you know what I mean?
I wish your generation worshipped Carlin more, George Carlin. His whole point about the whole 7 words you can't say on television was you give power to the words. Context matters. I highly recommend looking up George Carlin and the N word. Look it up on YouTube because I can't even say it. But that whole bit, have you ever seen that bit?
Yeah. Well, and like the 7 words you can't say on TV and all he's great at pointing out kind of the futility of euphemisms and how you're just going to make that next thing
Yeah.
the word that people use. Yeah, it's just how language evolves. Absolutely. So yeah, it's retarded. Yeah, that's what I should say.
There we go.
Field makeup. This shit's retarded. Hasan's really retarded.
the
Let's get
shows.
into it.
Yeah, no, I'm pro piracy all the way, like across the board.
Pirate a car.
If it was just piracy initiatives, would be like, dude, would you steal a car? I'm
Oh,
like,
I
yeah, sure. If I could get away with it, if it was as easy as pirating IP, I would do it. Yeah.
Would you dine and dash from your local diner?
Never. Tip 35%. Mike's, come on.
No, I wouldn't do that. And if I saw somebody doing that, I'd probably pay for their meal.
Yeah. Would you
I think it's interesting in that one, she didn't necessarily ask, like, would you dine and dash from a huge chain that, like,
Yeah,
doesn't
is
pay their
Olive Garden
employees fairly
does,
or
does Olive Garden change the rules?
right. Does that change the dynamic for you at all? I don't know. I think that would be interesting.
I'll
to
pirate a
understand.
car, but I won't pirate a free meal.
Yeah, right, exactly. I would take Chrysler's money, but I wouldn't take, it's his Roadhouse or whatever the fuck.
A book from the library.
Never.
No.
Would you steal from the Louvre?
Yes.
I would not be logistically capable of executing such a fact, but would I cheer on every news story of
Because it's imperialist as fuck. This is again just bong circle shit.
people that I see doing it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's cool. We gotta get back to cool crimes like that, like bank robberies, right? Stealing priceless artifacts, things of that nature. I feel like that's way cooler than the 7,000th new cryptocurrency scheme that people are engaging in.
And I know this dude's gonna say, "Oh, I'm totally joking about, of course you should just do cool crimes." And it's in the middle though of like literally doing like the litmus test of like, where are your virtues lining up here? So I just think that's really fucking funny that he's like, yeah, when you get to really cool crimes, like just stealing priceless artifacts.
I put that statement in the Nick Fuentes camp where he's just saying shit because he knows that it'll be a clip.
Absolutely. Nope. Oh, for sure. And it's just snuck in the middle of what he would legitimately call his real opinions.
Would you steal from Whole Foods?
You want to go first?
Yes. And I have, under very specific circumstances. I think that stealing from a big box store, I'll just state my platform. It's neither very significant as a moral wrong, nor is it significant in any way as protest or direct action. But I did steal from Whole Foods on several occasions. Like I've been involved in like a neighborhood mutual aid group since 2021. And so every week I would go get groceries for Miss Nancy, my now family friend who lived nearby, and she wanted to go to Whole Foods. She wanted food from Whole Foods. So I was like, okay, great. And so I'd be getting Miss Nancy all her groceries, and then I would finish and I'd be like, oh my God, 4
You got a name drop Miss Nancy, by the way.
lemons. I forgot 4 lemons. And on several occasions I was like, I'm just going to go back, grab those 4 lemons and get the hell out. And
you should go to prison.
I know. You think they're going to ban me?
They should throw you in jail.
But I didn't feel bad about it at all.
And was part of it because of how you feel about Whole Foods as a corporation?
Yeah, it already felt like a bit of a compromise. Like at the time, I was like, I had not been to Whole Foods. I had a bit more sort of consumer discipline about where I was spending my money then, and I already felt like I was in the hole even by shopping there. And it certainly felt in a utilitarian sense. I was like, this is not a big deal.
Well,
right, guys?
I'm pro.
It was utilitarian of me to steal some limes or lemons or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, and then eventually lemons get behind glass in your store.
To go to the produce section and ask a nice young man, I need 3 lemons, I need a thing of grape. Yeah, exactly. Jesus.
Stealing from big corporations because they steal quite a bit more from their own workers. However, one thing that might even help.
I before he just goes right over that, because they steal quite a bit more from their own workers. What is it, Larry, that you think he probably means by stealing from their own workers?
Yeah, that they're not paying them enough. They're not getting their fair share for their labor or whatever. But they're not going to have a job. Yeah, they're not going to have a job if the place isn't profitable and has to close down. Ask all the stores in Minneapolis and Seattle and San Francisco.
Oh, when all your money's moving out the door isn't kind of interesting.
Then there are no workers.
they're just not workers. It's do you think the words of like extraction of labor value or whatever are going to come up here? Because it's so clearly he's trying to conflate like wage theft, like actually misrepresenting how much you're going to pay someone and then fudging the numbers and literally stealing from your employees.
Yeah, what surprised me
when you don't pay them enough.
What surprises me is the resurgence of economic Marxism. How that's the flag and the hill he's willing to die on. It kind of baffles me a bit. I don't know how big a market there is for that.
in his viewpoint, it's what makes him not like a shit lib who's ready to capitulate to corporations is because he recognizes that there needs to be a standard labor value. See, this is where like I need to. It's good that we paused here because I know like I want to get to a good amount of this, but this is like the rant I need to go on this motherfucker is like I've always understood. I feel like what the left and right have both gone through in this past like decade, slowly as it's slowly gone up, the temperatures raised up on the frogs in the pot, is people still kind of close-ish to the center have been going, oh yeah, sure, sure, we're all communists, or yeah, yeah, sure, sure, we're all Nazis. While the people on the edges have gotten further and further to being communist Nazis, right? So I feel like it is incumbent upon me, and I feel like it's kind of the purpose of the show, at least a little bit, to try to knock some sense into some people on my side is kind of where I get juiced up hearing this bullshit. So like labor value, if you had someone who was catering a birthday party for a kid or like it's a baseball game, whatever it is, and they're bringing a whole bunch of pizza and they're going to price each slice at a certain amount, but they get to like the seventh inning of the baseball game and they have like half a pizza left, you might want to go, hey, we now have dollar slices, because people aren't as hungry. There's not necessarily as high as demand as there was earlier on, but you have this little bit of supply you want to get rid of. This is, if you say it's unfair of you to rob every other pizza joint everywhere in the country, if you lower the price on that slice of it, they all have to be even. You you're removing the economic decision from the point of sale, and that's retarded. That's really fucking stupid. And every time I hear dumb fucking communists bring this shit up, I'm just like, you're an idiot. You've never ran a business. You've never any of this anything that Hassan has made in his life. I guarantee you, he has some fucking accountant who's making much better decisions than he is because he's a motherfucking moron. This is so stupid.
Communism didn't put all that money in his bank account.
Sure did.
Communism didn't afford the silver spoon that he ate from as a child.
No, sure didn't. And this is exactly why people say it works on paper and not in the real fucking world. Because when you need to actually make money, you you can't actually create a labor value unit. That's not a fucking thing. It's never going to work that way. And I feel like something liberals need to use on the far lefties is like all of us on our side are really big on like science and like we believe in evolution, we're very secular. It's built in, it's baked into nature and evolution, supply and demand. They're different species who all compete over the same resources, which makes them more valuable, one might say. Like there's no separating supply and demand from like actual goods and services because it's at the base root of like universal empathy in this motherfucker. And it feels so retarded to be like, no, we can probably just find like a labor unit that we can just assign a value to universal.
Yeah.
You're fucking dumb. So frustrating.
I also love the irony that they hate all the white European, old white European, imperialist ideas and stuff, but yet they're pulling, or he is, I'm sorry, not they, but he's pulling his whole ideology from a white man in Europe in the 1800s.
Right. It feels a bit at odds to be combining a whole it's not built on actual ideology with a lot of these younger people who are just kind of generating clicks off what they believe to be the most sound ways to go about these illogical fucking arguments. And it's just again, there was a really good tweet, a clip of some kid in a hallway at some event who it looked like he was like a caterer at the motherfucker who was like taking Hassan to task. I'll send it to you because it's again, anytime he is exposed to someone who's like ready to call him on some bullshit, he freezes up. He can't do it. But yeah, we'll get to big
more
chunks
from their own workers. However, one thing that might even help your ethical dilemma is the fact that the automated process that they design, these companies know will increase shrink, right? So it's actually factored in. The lemons that you stole are factored into the bottom line of these mega corporations, regardless, and they still end up having increased profit margins because they no longer have to pay the cashiers that they used to hire, as opposed to this automated system, knowing full well that people are still going to be able to still steal a lot more efficiently, as a matter of fact, through the automated process.
Totally. Well, I was looking things up.
They priced it in already, bro. It's fine. It's so fucking dumb. It's just stupid.
And shrinkage is roughly equal internally as externally. Like they expect it from their employees that they are sort of disenfranchising constantly.
Yeah.
But what about the argument that if everyone just starts stealing wantonly from the self-checkout machines, Whole Foods will eventually raise the prices?
Yeah, chaos, full chaos. Let's go. I mean, look, I'm in favor. I'm in favor of fast and free buses and also government-owned storefronts. And two of those policies, the mayor of this beautiful city is currently working on.
Would you encourage stealing in the same way from a Mamdani-run city-owned grocery store with lower prices, and why?
I would not, because I feel like that's taxpayer funded. And the prices are this union labor, and the prices are also adjusted regardless.
I think.
And the prices are adjusted regardless. What does that mean?
It's such a fine line. Yeah, I don't know what that means, but also, it's what the moral distinction. They're stealing because they need it. It doesn't matter where it's coming from.
You eat to live, bro. What are we talking about here? Yeah, right. Where's the Latin spirit all of a sudden? Is it just because it was Bezos? It feels like it was just because it was a Bezos store or whatever. You fucking do Bezos. That's got me out here going like, just steal just because of fucking Bezos. This shit.
That hypothetical is interesting, right? Because if you look at it from a categorical imperative type thing, what if everybody did this? The converse is like, oh, what if every major grocery chain stole from workers and consumers, and that is basically true, right? Like it's
what is basically true. Now that's interesting for like there are little times that people kind of tell on themselves in the fact that they just use this gross hyperbole, and if this is basically true, doesn't indicate that, I don't know what does.
This doesn't sell outside tiny bubbles. I'm just telling you, Joe Q in middle of Pennsylvania. This, I don't know.
I do not disagree with you, and I see, like, because I've been thinking a lot since yesterday of like there does seem to be. I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it, and maybe I'll put it on hold until I've got a good way to put my mind around it. But it's basically there is generally much quicker normalization of Hasan Piker and his rhetoric than any other far right individual that I can speak to. And I think it's a testament to like people on the right, because they've had to make their own media apparatus through this last like 30 years or whatever, have always had to be so selective on who they platform anyway. And it's like for the left, they're the mainstream media, they can do whatever the fuck they want. Once they've decided it's safe to do something, it's like, oh, we'll elevate him. We'll have people talk about this guy for a couple weeks or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, again, I'm just thinking about the regular person, who's getting the one who hasn't plugged in and that didn't see all this. I mean, Trump was calling communist in the Neverland, and this guy's a literal communist, and he's getting the glam. This was a glam setup.
Yep. Yeah, it's New York Times opinion podcast.
Interesting.
Yep.
Like I think it speaks to the thing where a kind of harm committed by the individual strangely continually draws more ire than the same harm being committed by structure. And so
for some reason, stealing from a store is seen as like worse than like not paying someone as arguably as much as you should. Like the amount of time, I don't know how long we're going to be able to hit on this clip. The amount of time it takes for them to get around to like organizing a labor union and just talking about that shit at all it hurts, bro. Fucking
and
hurts.
stealing from a structure, government is structure. So why is it morally okay to steal from a private structure, but not morally to steal from a public structure?
I don't know. He's undecided, so right.
So I kind of am inclined towards this. It's like, everyone try it, see what happens.
Well, by the way, ironically enough, I don't personally do it. I never do it when I.
Not ironic at all. The fact that you espouse doing all this shit, but you don't actually do it, that actually is completely in line with everything I know about you, Hasan.
By the way, ironically enough, I don't.
Do as I say, not as I do, and be proud of it.
That's right. I'll go make all that shit.
I don't personally do it. I never do it. When I was younger, I stole some Pokemon cards from a friend, and my father punished me, and it was such a harrowing experience that I literally can't even steal like a candy bar. When we were.
This motherfucker stole Pokemon cards. Are you kidding me? This Team Rocket motherfucker was stealing Do you know how many Pokemon cards I got around me right now? That's fucking offensive to me. Now I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna
Number two, he just gave the best argument against restorative justice. You know, the whole we got to be soft on these guys and being converted back into. He just proved that harsh punishment scared the shit out of him, so he would never do it again.
I'm just gonna be on fucking Twitch all day telling people to do it.
We're in college. A lot of my friends used to love doing that. You know, getting drunk, going to the gas station, 5-finger discount. I would never participate in it, and I still can't to this day participate in it. I'm just saying that I personally don't really care. If someone needs the food, they should absolutely steal it.
There's one thing that's like stealing when you're a teenager and you want the adrenaline rush, and part of it is about testing the rules and getting away with something. But I feel like what I'm seeing on TikTok and social media is people saying that they're stealing from Whole Foods, not just for the thrill of it, but out of a feeling of anger and moral justification because the rich don't play by the rules. So why should I? And Jeff.
Wait, anger and moral justification. I thought it was in Aladdin, you got to eat to live, and you know, it's just right. Yeah, food is a basic human right, babe. Which one of these reasonings is actually justifying your actions?
And Asmongold, in his reaction to this video, I saw a clip of it. His whole thing was makeup. Who's eating fucking makeup? You're not stealing to eat if you're stealing makeup.
Bezos has too much money. He's a billionaire. So why should I have to pay for organic avocados? My friends and I have started
organic avocado,
calling this micro looting, because it has a like slight political valence to the theft as opposed to just the thrill of getting away with something. Have you noticed this around you online? Have you noticed more people talking about stealing in this way?
I mean, I have not seen people talking about micro looting or such, you know, whatever action that this is online, but I think, I mean, it kind of speaks to an attenuation of the tactical language of direct action. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if it's like, it doesn't work for me as a form of direct action because it's concealed, right? Like any successful direct action history has to be ostentatious, has to make itself known, is ideally collective. And this is sort of necessarily individual and hidden. But I'm like, oh, great. Let's think of ways to, like, let's take this energy and let's move it into some other thing. Like, I think it's great that the valence of property is kind of on the table as something to be toyed with in terms of direct action. I feel like we've forgotten there's a long and storied history of sabotage and sort of engagement with property destruction even, which is abhorrent to people. I mean, you remember in 2020,
forget abhorrent. It's way less fucking effective. Like there's studies done about major revolutions and like small civic changes or major incremental change, if you want to look at it that way. And like the nonviolent options are way more fucking effective.
Yeah, there is no Gandhi of shoplifting. And number two, I don't know how shoplifting makes your society better. I don't care what your intent behind it is. You can't sell that to me, and I don't think you can sell that to a lot of regular people.
And I think what she's kind of touching on, it's not necessarily that they would argue that this is what you should be doing, but they don't frown upon it. Why are we fucking taking this long out of like a 35-minute interview? We're 9 minutes in. We're just talking about micro looting and dumb fucking bullshit. It is dumb. It's ultimately dumb. It's just yeah, right. It's an embarrassing display of an exchange of ideas. It just doesn't. It feels so performative.
Like Gucci, Chanel stuff in Soho when that was looted.
Well, NYPD is investigating a robbery pattern targeting high-end clothing boutiques in Soho. Latest happening Tuesday at the Chanel on Spring Street.
That looms so much larger in many sort of Bloomberg liberals' imaginations as profoundly more violent in some ways than the original action being protested, right? And I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the Boston Tea Party as part of like that's a political destruction of property, and yet right now it feels like I agree with you. The looting around the 2020 protests was such a huge talking point. It made people so uncomfortable, and I'm curious why. Like, what do you think the root of that is?
I was thinking, that thieves are actually quite highly valorized in narrative. I mean, Aladdin famously.
Robin Hood, Jean
Hood,
Valjean.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Jean Valjean.
Stole a loaf of bread.
We
Stop.
Yeah.
First of all, the left's misunderstanding of the Robin Hood myth drives me crazy. Robin Hood was stealing from King John because King John had the tax on the people. It's the rob the rich was literally robbing from the government.
Right. Because he had stolen all of the people's money, right?
Because he had stolen the people's money. So I'm sorry, that's just a pet peeve of mine. Like Robin Hood wasn't just going at random rich. He was going after the King John's, because of the taxes.
No, we got crimes like highway robberies and
now again, I feel like an idiot because this is the Starship Troopers thing in reverse, where every liberal's like, yeah, but you can't enjoy that movie because it's making fun of fascism. And we're like, yeah, but they blow up bugs.
Oh yeah,
But still.
it's just how it goes. This is human nature, man. When you're like, you don't fucking get the thing. But yeah, all those examples are again like people who are stealing bread to fucking get by, not get lemons from foods because they're a running late or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. She's not eating. She isn't going to starve if she doesn't get the lemon. Aladdin's living in a society where if he doesn't get the bread, he's going to starve. In the French Revolution, he's getting the bread because they were starving during the French Revolution.
You're not going to starve if you don't, get your car.
And again, the Robin Hood example.
Your Netflix password.
Yeah, and Robin Hood was stealing from the specifically the members of the court, those associated with the court.
Yeah, right. It would.
Understand it's well within the collective consciousness that stealing for need or purpose, it's something that we understand and feel quite friendly towards. And I think if someone were, let's say, walking out of Whole Foods with an IKEA bag of whatever and giving it to the people, sheltering underneath the scaffolding at the jail going up in Brooklyn next door, I think most people would agree that if someone were to be stealing with a purpose, we love that in America. We do. We can love it again.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to do it with a purpose.
I was reading a Pew
dumb. Sorry, dumb.
What is she even espousing there? Like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to take away from the first 11 minutes of this. That's a third of the interview thus far.
I hope they're through this pretty soon because we've just reached the point, and we love the stealing. Man, go back and the from the 30s, Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde, and there's a romanticism about them because they were bad guys, but at the time they were people didn't like them. They were they were dangerous and they were crooks and then the Wild West of the 1800s with Billy the Kid and all the outlaws, same story. They're romanticized after the period, but in period, they're the bad guys.
Terrorized towns. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Or whatever their targets were. Right.
Yeah, whatever their targets were.
I do think they're going to be getting to Luigi here pretty soon.
Research poll about.
And even if we don't get all of this in, we'll get, another half of it in later in the week or whatever.
Americans' morality. And it basically was just like, well, we didn't even ask about the obviously immoral things like theft. We only asked about like having an affair. And I was like, but I feel like part of what I'm seeing around me is that people feel like the laws are immoral. The rich don't play by the rules. We live in a society where there are billionaires, where the top 1% holds 32% of the net worth and the bottom 50% holds 2.5%. So at some point, if the laws don't feel moral, do you start to question your own sense of having to abide by them?
Of course.
Yeah. I wanted to work off of a point that you were making. This was also something that was addressed in a previous New York Times podcast that I did with Rouse Douthat, where I brought up the concept of adventurism. In the Marxist tradition, adventurism is the action that is oftentimes decentralized. Oftentimes anarchists will say this is the propaganda of the deed. The action itself, no matter how violent or how disruptive it is justifiable because the disruption is the point. I believe in the power of organized labor and labor militancy and building these structures of power so that we can actually make more effective change, more longstanding change. So concepts such as micro-looting indicate that there is an energy there, just like you said. And yet many Americans, I think, are totally oblivious to this political language. They lack the political education. They lack the class consciousness to recognize their position in society. And
Does Hassan think it's at all related to the fact that it took like 12 minutes and 30 seconds for organized labor to come up as part of this fucking conversation? Is that why people don't have like the consciousness of what's necessary in this fucking moment? God
Yeah,
damn.
they haven't been baptized. Remember, the class consciousness is the whole point of Marxism. You know, you have to re-educate them or you have to eliminate them. This is a very dangerous. People forget the dangerous part of communism because you have to do something with the one who won't wake up, the one who doesn't become socially conscious. The Soviets had a method for getting rid of them. The Chinese they got rid of 50 million of them. So this is the dangerous aspect.
Famines, though. Come on, you're exaggerating things about like forced famines, blah blah blah. Like it feels like Holocaust denialism. The left's version of that is like, oh, you're blaming Mao for a bunch of this shit. You're blaming
Well, then my
Marx,
open question would be, what do you do with those who don't achieve social consciousness? What do you do with them? You can't get to utopia with them in your society.
Just re-educate them. I'm not going to get into details on what that would entail. You re-educate them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see that any good form of that.
And the fact again that we haven't gotten into anything that what someone might use to even just empower themselves in a workplace without a labor union to ask for more out of their boss and say, hey, I feel like a pretty valuable part of the organization. And I need blank blank because of my home life. I feel like if we could just instill confidence in the American worker, it's going to be so much easier than fucking getting labor unions in every fucking workplace that it isn't currently in. So frustrating.
Lack the capacity, unfortunately, to engage in some kind of organized disruption that would be infinitely more effective.
I think what you were saying about people lack the language and the organizing structure to engage in, like the obvious thing to do if you want to chip into the Whole Foods / Amazon mega structure of exploitation is to unionize, like to work at a Whole Foods and form a union. And I think the first one was formed recently in Philly, I think. But, it's like micro looting. It feels akin to like a posting about something. Like it's a kind of, as an atomized individual action, it's useless. It's much harder to get a job and accept $17.50 an hour and then to organize your colleagues, a process that takes years and is often unsuccessful. I mean, that's really, the thing about actual collective direct action. It's so much harder. And it often doesn't profit you whatsoever, such as, me getting an extra $10 by grabbing my extra loaf of bread from Miss Nancy. Like I do think we are also lazy.
$10 for a loaf of fucking bread. This is why I don't shop at Whole Foods, motherfucker. What the hell?
As humans, we're also selfish. We also we've lost not only the language and the union density and the structure to engage in things like this, but we have also lost the sort of muscle that is built up to be able to engage in these sort of things. We've lost the rooms in which these things are planned,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the confidence. I think we've lost the confidence within ourselves because there is not a lot of action like this. And in the absence of that, we lack the willpower. because we don't even know what that would look like.
And I mean, the climate protests and
So like what consciousness
I
is
don't.
what am I able to do better about being fairly compensated by stealing shit from the store? You don't understand the connection. I don't get that they're doing.
Even the justification feels off. Well, they're cheating, so why do I have to play by the rules? Well, great. You're going to create a whole society where nobody plays by the rules. Well, a society with no rules becomes anarchic. I mean, your end game is just the logic is beyond me. There is no logic.
Well, it's again, they wouldn't be able to say that. Well, no, my logic is this is why we need to organize. This is why we need to have labor unions. And I agree with those things, but you don't. None of
Well, you
what
don't have
I'm
to steal.
watching is. It doesn't
I
tie
don't.
in. Well, what'd you say? I'm sorry. I'm talking
Oh no,
over
the shoplifting. No, you're fine. I get bad about interrupting, but the shoplifting, go ahead and organize. Do you see what I'm saying? You don't need to do the shoplifting, micro looting, whatever. Just organize.
Sharing my Netflix password does not put more money in my pocket. It just means someone didn't pay for Netflix. It's fuck, it's so fucking frustrating. I do want to try to get in at least the rest of their organized labor talk, and we'll get Luigi in too, because there's so much shit. The chick, the other, I'm trying to remember. I think she's New Yorker. I don't remember where she's from. Um, but she at one point describes shooting the healthcare executive as not a good political action, but a good example of political consciousness raising. So it's like again, raising that consciousness, that class consciousness, just seems to be so important that murdering a motherfucker is okay to her. Or again, I don't want to say okay, but so excusable or understandable.
Justify. It justifies murder.
Feels very justified, not in a way that MLK Jr. would say he understands riots. No, this lady is saying sometimes you got to do what you got to do in a certain sense. But I'm going to see how much we can get of at least the
Europe tend to be more militant, right, than the ones that are here, and they are, blocking roadways, like these things that are even objectively completely nonviolent forms of obstruction and interference that don't even involve property destruction, but merely the interruption of the capital flow of the workday, like are criminalized to shocking degrees to me, even in Europe, And I guess I'm saying, like, maybe we are getting the lack of courage is maybe a rational response to the kind of the way these actions are treated in the popular consciousness as well as by the criminal justice system, but they shouldn't be.
I want to get back a little bit to the anger underneath this. Like in 1965, CEOs were paid 21 times the average worker. In 2024, CEOs are paid 281 times the average worker. I feel like some of this is coming from a feeling of like the social contract is broken. And then there's also the slippery slope of what happens if we completely break the social contract and no one plays by the rules anymore. And I wonder where you two see the interplay of those two ideas.
Well, the rules are already designed in a way where if you steal from the poor, you become rich. If you steal from the wealthy, you go to prison. So there's only one direction where you can do unlimited theft and erode the social contract for the 99%. There's an invisibility baked into the system that allows the wealthy to engage in this sort of behavior. Because I mean, it's a cliche at this point, but like wage theft is the most consequential amount of theft that takes place in the United States of America.
Again, kind of conflating here. Wage theft, that sounds like when an employer represents how much they're going to pay you and quite literally in your hourly rate pay you a different amount. Is that what he's talking about here?
You're not a slave. You can say, I don't want to do this for that amount of money.
Right.
If you feel like you're being thieved against, you do have options. We don't have indentured servitude in the United States. You can say, fuck you, boss.
It's stuck where I am, man. This is the capitalist system. They keep you stuck as a cog in the wheel, and you're always too tired. I'm too tired to riot. You need to steal bagels, Larry.
If you as an individual feel like you're a cog getting fucked over, well, then, I guess you should be a cog. If you're willing to stay there in that position, you reap what you sow.
Right.
If you feel like you deserve more, you would leave and go find find where you deserve more. See if
Even
someone's
if you
willing to
don't
pay you for it.
leave, if you feel like you deserve more, maybe you need to find some way to articulate that to the people
Yeah.
who decide how much you make, and go make the
Yeah.
fucking case for them. Like
Yeah,
that's
and
you
if
gotta
they say
start
no, if they say no, you have the option to say, okay, well, I guess I have to put up with it, or fuck y'all.
you start looking for
FYM.
another plate. Yeah, you don't tell them that, but you use that as leverage when you have this. Exactly, people aren't actually looking. They want someone to come in and save them from this terrible situation that they're in, and it's so fucking frustrating because it's just like you got fucking doors.
Victim, victim,
Mm-hmm.
victim,
Victim, victim,
victim.
victim. Oh, absolutely. There's something
Well,
about the way she
the
phrased
rules are already designed in a way.
It happens if we completely break the social contract and no one plays by the rules anymore. And I wonder where you two see the interplay of those two ideas.
I wonder where you see the interplay of these two ideas. Feels like a really odd way of saying, how do you hold this cognitive dissonance? Because I'm having a little trouble with it, maybe. Like I'm trying to think of what is she even asking when you phrase it that way? You know what I mean? Isn't it just like a
Yeah, and you're halfway through this video, and they've elevated this whole thing. I don't know. Are they encouraging it? I'm just getting to the point where, first of all, you're belaboring such stupid shit. I don't know how this wasn't condensed even smaller. I don't know. It seems like they're smelling their own farts.
Well, they're passing that joint around, man. It's just a bong circle at UC Berkeley. That's all I'm watching right here.
What does Peter Griffin say about Godfather?
Insists upon itself.
It insists upon itself.
Which is brilliant because I don't know if you've seen, a lot of people have said Hasan Piker is pretty much the real life Brian Griffin, who, bloviates about, being this upstanding moral person, but he's really just a pothead who fucking is lazy as shit and gets offended on other people's behalves and shit. Top notch shit. Okay, yeah, I think we can. Yeah, we're about halfway through. We're about to get
In
to
this sort of behavior, because I mean it's a cliche at this point, but like wage theft is the most consequential amount of theft that takes place in the United States of America. A similar invisibility exists in structural violence as opposed to individual acts of violence as well. If it's a police officer engaging someone violently, the automatic assumption from the average person is, oh, that's probably a criminal. They probably deserved it. But if there's any circumstance where someone else is fighting back against police, like in a normal protest environment, for example, ultimately, most people assume that that is chaotic. There's a chaotic situation, and that it is born out of the escalations from the protesters themselves, even if, as regular citizens, we're infinitely closer to those exercising their First Amendment rights than those with the power stamping out people exercising their free speech rights. We never look at systemic forms of violence, and we don't look at systemic forms of theft in the same way that we do as individuals breaking that social contract.
We do all the time. Just because a fair amount of the society that you're in doesn't look at it the same way that you do, Hassan, doesn't mean that that question isn't raised all the fucking time. I hate this fucking the
well,
way of
yeah,
framing this shit of like, oh, why don't people care about my thing? And a shit ton of people do. I hate that shit.
and a lot of people will accept, because a policeman is going to run into violence more often, and he's trained for violence more often, and more often than not, the policeman is generally dealing with a violent person when he's using violence. I mean, that's just
That's the
statistically.
reason the assumption is made. One, I think there's
But yeah, that's why that assumption is made, is because,
right.
well, it is a truth.
What he's also overlooking
A
is
generality.
people currently in this day and age, the year of our Lord 2026, no longer automatically make that assumption. It's part of what being woke is. I think. It isn't necessarily believing in Karl Marx's
But then you'd have
theory
to
of
be
value of labor.
quantifiable. You need figures. A lot of things he says, there's no data. You would need to back it up with data or some kind of receipt.
Vibes. No, yeah, we're just gonna dress it up in a bunch of like buzzwords, and find ways to intellectualize us just essentially going, well, when
I
it's
will say this.
intellectualized, it's worse than when I physically do it. institutionally killing or thieving from people is worse than literally killing and thieving from people. You're fucking stupid.
Yeah, and I will say this: as much as he likes to pretend to be the intellectual, he is not a member of the vanguard. He's a useful idiot. So I'm just letting he doesn't he does he's and again, I don't even know if he's half as ideological as he is. This is his shtick. This is what gets him his clicks. This is what gets him his fan base. I don't think. Yeah, he's wearing. What's he wearing? Isn't he wearing a polo shirt? Probably. I'm not real good at picking out expensive clothes,
Ralph
but I'm
Lauren.
guessing. Yeah, ask. Yeah. How good? Good. There you go, comrade. That's like a
dude wears like $6,000 outfits on average or whatever the fuck.
I think there is, in my ideal world, what we are talking about, the one kind of theft being inescapable and hegemonic and completely oppressive, and then people trying to get a little bit of it back through stealing from Whole Foods or whatever, right? It's the ideal
completely oppressive and like it I can't.
Did they just decide that
World.
cultural oppression is we can't use that anymore because people hate woke? So we're gonna just go back to economic oppression. But there's a whole reason why Mercuzzo and all those guys switched it. They all hated Marx. I mean, they were Marxists, but they said Marx got it wrong because look at post World War II Europe. Everyone kind of likes capitalism. So we better come up with something else to separate the masses because we can't use the economic classes anymore. And now they're like, it's like their fallback position.
Yeah, that's what's so fascinating to me for real is it feels like antiquated forms of it's not even socialism in the way that we think about it in the 21st century. It's old school.
There's a reason. It is the reason. There's a reason those 60s Frankfurt School Marxists killed the economic model of Marxism is because it didn't work. I mean, the proletariat never revolted.
Right.
Not everybody
wants that. You know what I mean? Like it's a vision of the world of everybody being as self-righteous as you are. That's what commies really want.
Not everybody hates the rich as much as I think a lot of communists think they hate
wants
the
to
rich.
be super rich. Not everybody wants to own a business and have the risk of having to pay those bills every single fucking month.
Yeah, some guys they want to make good money. You want to make sure you take care of your woman. You want to make sure you can get go on your trips. You want to make sure you can buy some toys here and there, whether they be big like a boat or small like a comic book. You want to be you want to be fluid. But I mean, not every man desires, or every person. I'll be non-sexist. Although I mean, man is in the original mankind, but whatever. That boat sailed. But my point being, the envy isn't in every it isn't as ingrained. Again, urban perhaps, but once you get out into those swing areas, I just don't know who they're trying to sell this to.
Yeah, who's they? You mean like Hasan, who he tries to sell
The
himself
New York
to, or
Times
New
in
York
this case.
Times?
New York Times in this case. Because again, this is just like a big puff piece. This is like a centerfold in one of those upper glitzy, ritzy magazines, like Vanity Fair or something.
Right. And I feel like that could be the only possible, like trying to get New Yorker Vanity Fair types to at least click on a podcast and be like, oh well, New York Times is being quite provocative on their economic stances and
Well,
their
it's like
opinion editorials.
it's just like they need a new thing. It's the new thing because the old thing is out of fashion. It's like, do you remember a couple of years ago it was all about body affirming or whatever, where you couldn't fat shame or whatever, and now every motherfucker's taking Ozempic, so that shit's out the window now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you gotta be healthy. Right.
Well, now they're going to anorexic looking. You seen what's happened to a couple of the people doing the Ozempic?
Not just the Ozempic, not to get too far off track, but they like the buccal fat or buccal. I don't know what it's called, but when they suck it all out of the cheeks, and these women just look. I feel so sorry for them because it's so much of our entertainment system is built on, well, how you looking? Do you have the looks to get signed to the next picture or the next tour or whatever?
Yeah, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent either. And my point being, it has that feel of a bunch of rich people looking for their next interest.
I think that is a very valid point. It's for the most like navel gazy on the left, they need to move off of the woke thing, and this might be their best way of trying to make that pivot. I think
Give
that
me
might
that
be a
Peter
really good
Griffin
option.
line again. Give me that Peter Griffin line again.
It insists upon it. They
They
insist.
insist upon themselves.
But yeah, it's gonna go, and if I make a second version of our thumbnail thing to catch some things, it's gonna be they insist upon themselves. But I
we're
might
hitting,
even.
yeah, we're hitting 1:30 mark, so we should probably start wrapping her up.
I was gonna
I
say
had a
we're
couple.
about 15 minutes in. We'll pick this up maybe on the ranking episode or sometime on Friday, maybe.
Yeah, it depends if things get hot or not. I had a few things I wanted to pop up, but like I said, I really got to wind down. I have a girl. I am in an oppressed situation, and I have an oppressor, so I have to go and spend time with my girl.
Yeah, I feel really bad about. I feel like there should be equal rights in that relationship. Does Chris hit you? I shouldn't. Partner? I'm a lefty, so I got to use partner.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm. It's time to watch some Deep Space Nine. So.
Right. Okay, cool. That works. But yeah, hit me with some nut shit. I sent you the one link earlier today. I'll get you some timestamps for that
You know what?
tomorrow.
Let me give you a preview of tomorrow night, people, because this will be very
Yeah,
short. Let's get you a preview of tomorrow night.
Because yeah, you're gonna send me other people who are in that kind of right wing space, younger kind of voice, or at least hit the
All right.
younger audiences for
And
sure.
this also addresses the right wing embracing AI. All right, here we go.
未来の星のために歌っちゃうよですよ出生率下がってるみんな心配してるよね意味に頼らないで自分の子を増やそうよ可愛い赤ちゃんいっぱい笑顔で溢れて未来の英雄たちがここから生まれるのアニメみたいに勇気いっぱいライトの目の前に夢を追いかけて愛を溢れさせて新しい命を運命よ増やせよもっと埋めよ Fuck 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 more and more inside of her Make sure
Pause. Oh, wait, hold on, let me pause. I got. Did you catch
crap?
Mission Shinzo Abe is, you have to understand, he's like a Jedi Force ghost on the right. So I thought they loved. Yeah, you have to understand. That's coded. That's hardcore coded. If every right winger just smiled at that, but I just wanted to give you a good taste of this is Leaflet, and or Leaflet. I'm sorry, Leaflet, and yeah. So this is where we're going to delve into. This is my newest fascination. The VTubing world.
Yeah.
In fact, yep. So
got plenty on the way then. So like, comment, subscribe. There's so much to keep track of. No one can do it all. That's why you subscribe to the Daily Hot Take, folks. Also, you know what? This kind of came up. If you're going to leave a comment below, tell me what speed you listen to your podcasts at. Because, yeah, 1.5 is about usually where I'm trying to max it. I go to 2.0 speed if I've already listened to something and I'm trying to find a moment again. But otherwise, 1.5 is, I think, what I go with.
Yeah, I'll go 1.5 generally most of the time. Although I will pop up if I'm used to their speech patterns or if I'm listening, like Victor Davis Hanson is a slow speaker. So I can get away with, some people just speak slower. And if I'm and again, there are times I'll just listen at regular speed, because I just want to hear whatever. So it just depends on the situation. But yeah, that'd be an interesting thing. All right, like, subscribe, and we'll return. We'll return once again.
Have a good night, y'all. Take it easy. Treat